What makes a human being? What are the components of one? Is a human being more than just a body, more than the total sum of its parts? My name is James Golden, storyteller, author, TTRPG Enthusiast, and today it is my distinct and horrid pleasure to bring to light the wretched Prometheans called Frankensteins. Welcome to Blacklist Redacted. Let's get into it. Frankenstein, the wretched. Humor, choleric, vengeful, ambitious. Element, fire. Courage, inspiration, persuasion, wrath. I'm not your Adam. The children of Frankenstein embody the previous questions every moment of their waking lives. They are powerful beings, with strength only to rival their passion, but misshapen and unfinished. Comprised of the best parts of corpses stitched together and animated by harnessed lightning, they were made in the image of mankind. But make no mistake, they are not human. The other lineages that shamble through the dark world are the result of miracles or divine intervention, but not so the wretched. These are the children of Frankenstein's monster, and like their legendary progenitor, they walk in nightmarish bodies racked by confusion and pain. Not all are as hideous as the being Victor Frankenstein brought to life that night, but the curse that they share is the same. They do not have souls. They are not human beings, a truth they will struggle with for the rest of their lives. But the divine fire sparks within, and with it, potential. The misery that they feel can make monsters of Frankenstein's children, but it can also serve as inspiration, once tempered. In their own misunderstood manner, quite a few become heroes. Bile and fire mix within them, making for a heady, roiling brew. Electricity, the flowing liquid fire of the alchemist, is the constant legacy of their creation. A Frankenstein is no more than a collection of corpse parts painstakingly sewn together and laid out on a slab until the moment when the machinery of creation draws a single bolt of electricity across her body. Shocked into life, her eyes open on a world that has already begun to reject her. The lightning remains within, crackling through her veins. Electricity and fire are intrinsic to the wretched. It animates their bodies, drives their speech, burns their thoughts, granting energy and inspiration to the created. It sparks in their disfigurements, affecting how they perceive themselves and the world around them. The Frankensteins cannot hide from what they are. Each body part is sewn into the next, each stitch, ache, and pain a reminder of their unfortunate existences. This inability to hide from that truth lends a frankness to the wretched that many find uncomfortable, in a way that goes beyond disquiet. The notion of honesty as a virtue resonates with them, whereas the notion that one can be too brutally honest does not. They see the truth, they get to the point, they cut to the heart of the matter. Social graces, innuendos, airs, these things are often lost on them. While the lightning in their forms grants a rare few eloquence, many of the Frankenstein lineage appear clumsy and off. Alchemically, there is a reason for that, though it brings the wretched little comfort. Body parts taken from the different humans don't always harmonize as they should. Sometimes, in the throes of torment, Frankensteins have reported feeling trapped in bodies that no longer obey them, and even a few have been attacked by wayward or unresponsive limbs. Though Prometheans of other lineages also experience rebellious organs, the wretched experience it more often, citing it frequently, especially when the mind is tired and their stores of pyros are low. The struggles with their limbs and organs often extend to speech, especially during their first few days of waking. Comprised of many different bodies that potentially knew many different languages in life, is it any wonder that Frankensteins have some trouble articulating their thoughts? Language does not come easy to the wretched without good reason to speak. Some are self-taught or develop a new language spoken only by other Prometheans, they themselves who have spent very little time in the company of mortals. Unsurprisingly, many Frankensteins speak in archaisms or without the benefit of modern manners or idioms, while others prefer short, succinct sentences, the better to get to the heart of the matter. No BS to these guys. The choleric humor that drives them is linked to fire and electricity, imbuing the Frankensteins with unstoppable drive on the pilgrimage. Restless, tireless, the wretched rarely slow or fall prey to apathy, and despite the bitterness bubbling in the yellow bile of their beings, they often manage to display amazing courage in the face of danger and hardship. They often experience feelings of discontent and discomfort, a need to escape what they are, but in that, many find the push needed to keep going on the path to find mortality. That same fire and bile lends to a forever need to fight. They fight to obtain a soul on the pilgrimage through Saturnine night. They fight to defend their throng mates, and should they be so lucky, their friends. They fight out of anger, out of unrequited love, and often, all too often, against their own destructive forces and emotions. Let's be blunt, because the Frankensteins would have it no other way. The wretched anger easily. Though determined, they can just as easily be stubborn, and when crossed, their thoughts almost always bubble towards revenge. This is because they feel so passionately, despite not having a soul. They yearn with all of their being to be mortal, and to see humans squander their lives fills them with bitterness and envy. Those traits, envy and stubbornness, often lead Frankenstein to vengeance, which from there only lead to more rage and violence. It is a cycle that they cannot escape from easily. Thus, the first lesson of the wretched, taught by their progenitor, Dr. Frankenstein's first creation. When torment took him, people suffered and died. His progeny follow in that terrible tradition. When their plans are thwarted, when they suffer setbacks, they are often beset by murderous wrath. Such is but one of the reasons that many Prometheans, themselves the progeny of creations that were not considered failures in the eyes of their makers, often look down on the Frankensteins. In the eyes of established throngs consisting of multiple lineages, the wretched often have a great deal to prove. They don't possess the consistency and durability of the Tammuz, the grace of the Galateans, the presence and leadership of the Osiris, or the otherworldly aptitudes of the Olgans. But in matters of passion, vigor, enthusiasm, and drive, the Frankensteins have no equal. The story of Victor Frankenstein is well known. We've dabbled in the subject a few times in past videos, but now is the time to give the devil his due. The man, the myth, the post-Enlightenment legend. We are looking at upwards of around 400 films that tell some version of the Frankenstein mythos. And although there are certainly differences between them, one point remains universal. Victor Frankenstein's single-minded, all-consuming desire to create life led him to create a monster instead. His methods shouldn't have worked. Enlightenment science coupled with Paracelsian alchemy should have done nothing more than torch an already battered corpse. Instead, as we all know, the monster opened his eyes. A miracle. And what did Victor do? He turned away from his creation in utter disgust, mortified by what he had done. He intended to make a beautiful, complete man, innocent, wondrous. What he'd made would instead haunt him the rest of his waking life. It was on a dreary night of November that I beheld the accomplishment of my toils. With an anxiety that almost amounted to agony, I collected the instruments of life around me, that I might infuse a spark of being into the lifeless thing that lay at my feet. It was already 1 a.m. The rain pattered dismally against the panes, and my candle was nearly burnt out, when, by the glimmer of the half-extinguished light, I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature open. It breathed hard, and a convulsive motion agitated its limbs. How can I describe my emotions at this catastrophe, or how delineate the wretch with whom such infinite pains and care I had endeavored to form? His limbs were in proportion, and I had selected his features as beautiful. Beautiful, great God! His yellow skin scarcely covered the work of muscles and arteries beneath. His hair was of a lustrous black and flowing, his teeth a pearly whiteness, but these luxuriances only formed a more horrid contrast with his watery eyes that seemed almost of the same color as the dun white sockets in which they were set. His shriveled complexion and straight black lips. The different accidents of life are not so changeable as the feelings of human nature. I had worked hard for nearly 2 years for the sole purpose of infusing life into an inanimate body. For this I had deprived myself of rest and health. I desired it with such an ardor that far exceeded moderation, but now that I had finished, the beauty of the dream vanished, and breathless horror and disgust filled my heart. The creature's very first experience was the rejection of its maker. It escaped the conditions of Frankenstein's lab and entered the world, finding only loneliness and rejection everywhere that he went, and bitterness took him. He grew to hate Victor for giving him life and swore revenge, but no matter where he went or how he tried to contact humanity, each effort ended in failure. Often he found himself shunned and attacked, and eventually, with nowhere else to go, he returned to torment Frankenstein. There, a new desire manifested, a companion, one built in his own twisted image. The monster desired a bride. In most versions of the story, Frankenstein failed to finish the bride and destroyed it before he can give it life. But some, such as the 1935 horror film Bride of Frankenstein, show him finishing the creation, only for the bride to reject the monster. Prometheans, especially the wretched, tell a different story. As evidenced by the lineage, at some point the monster learned how to create more of his kind, offspring. They say that the monster made the bride, not Victor Frankenstein, and in this effort, he failed titanically. Instead of a companion, a boon on the pilgrimage, he created a sublimati Pandoran, a deceptively intelligent Pandoran, initially indistinguishable from a Promethean. The wretched say that in the same way that the monster plagued Victor Frankenstein to the end of his days, the bride and her monstrous spawn still plague their progenitor, even now. The monster tormented his creator, making threats to the safety of Victor and his family. Threats which he made good on over the next couple of years. Though not directly responsible for Frankenstein's death, the monster was certainly the kindling. Frankenstein followed his creation into the Arctic with intent to pursue and destroy it. But in turn, he was taken by exposure and fatigue. Commonly told stories indicate that the creature found Frankenstein's body and then, filled with remorse, destroyed himself. We know better though, don't we? The monster is still abroad, still walking through Saturnine night, though now possessed of the ability to make fellow Prometheans, none have stood as brothers, sons, or even friends. The progenitor monster suffers from extreme isolation, anger, and loneliness, for each of his creations has rejected him, just as his creator did that very first night. Unpredictable, tormented, and filled with ungodly power, the creature is driven ever onward, feared and respected by his distant children. At this stage of existence, Frankensteins are most often created by one another, selected from the best fragments of different corpses and stitched together. Though the remains of fit and muscular people are choice, the best pieces don't often come from the same source. Some of the wretched have mismatched arms and legs, and certainly the organs within all come from different bodies. These deformities are not visible like 90% of the time, but even still, people who see a Frankenstein get this strange sense that something is wrong, something is off, even when they can't tell that anything is wrong at all. And that's when a Frankenstein's true nature is hidden. When the wretched use their transmutations or powers, the joints between the different parts of their bodies become apparent. Their stitches glow, and the material used to bind them becomes visible, revealing corpse bits held together by anything by rivets or straps or little bits of steel wire and metal screws. Some Frankensteins have electrical terminals sticking out from their bodies or copper spikes protruding from their scalp. Some even have small metal plates along their spine. When the Promethean uses their powers, these terminals spark and electricity arcs all across their body. The created refer to these visible monstrous traits as disfigurements, noting that they really only occur when a Promethean uses their powers. Most of the time, the wretched appear as a mismatched jumble of otherwise attractive traits, but collectively, in this circumstance, confer disquiet. A noble jaw, a beautiful set of eyes, some graceful hands, muscular arms. You get the idea. On the pilgrimage, the wretched have been known to practice all of the refinements, but there are a few that come more naturally to them than others. Cuprum, the refinement of copper, often finds a Frankenstein when they feel the need to withdraw from mortal society, and such time as they are ready to rejoin, having found clarity and mutability in nature. When it comes to combat, the anger and fire in a wretched makes Stanum a much more likely choice than Ferrum, as they find it rather easy to channel their rage into destructive power. Unsurprisingly, few Frankenstein follow Mercurius, which is a refinement dedicated to perfecting their state. It feels kind of wrong, especially to those who struggle with deep discontent and depression. When it comes to character creation, Frankensteins tend to favor the three attribute categories rather equally. Although presence is often low, there have been many who possess high manipulation and high composure. Such beings are eloquent and allow their brutish physique to hide a sharp tongue and keen intellect. Frankensteins, by their very ill-formed nature, must endure tremendous hardship. As such, physical skills often take center stage, as do physical merits. By contrast, social merits are rare. Giant is a particularly common merit, as many are formed from larger than average bodies, while others, who were once of average composition, expanded when the divine fire first moved through their bodies. Fortitude and justice are common virtues for the Frankenstein, just as wrath and envy are common vices. Fortitude reflects their ability to withstand pain and isolation in pursuit of their ideals, while justice reflects their attempt to impose order on a world they often see as broken, unfair, and cruel. When it comes to their vices, wrath represents a Frankenstein's explosive, dangerous anger, while envy represents their hyper-awareness of all the facilities they lack: humanity, acceptance, beauty. Not to say that a Frankenstein cannot possess any of the other virtues or vices, but these four shine again, time and again, both in the progenitor and his spawn. Frankensteins, the wretched. Perhaps the most well-known of the Promethean lineages, they shamble through Saturnine night in search of their place among the stars and the refinement that will see them redeemed. Though the mistake of man perpetuated by the monster and carried by his children, they are just as worthy as any of the created of attaining that mythical dawn. Once again, my name is James Golden, and thank you for exploring the captivating creatures called Prometheans. On my next video, I'll peel back the layers of Greek history and myth to bring you the tragic muses of love and inspiration of the Galatea. Until then, hold tight to one another, cherish your humanity, and remember, bright may be the day, but sanguine is the night.